Day number 10. Good morning. Day number 10. Thought creates. Now, you may have realized by now, or not, that thought creates. I remember when I did not know that. I did not know that. And I had a pretty miserable life. And I was sitting there with the woman that my mother, my birth mother, had paid a friend of hers to do a numerology reading for me. And I was so cynical. And I was so skeptical. And I was so in my own head and up my own... and good morning. and I remember being with her, and she was like, she looked at me and she was like, because of course you do know that we are one, and everything you do, think, and say affects the whole. And I remember thinking, oh, like basically that means I'm screwed because I was not a happy bunny, and everything that was inside of me really was basically toxic. And to think that in that moment when she said that, for some reason, even though those weren't the words that she used, for some reason I had this sense of knowing that it meant that there were no lines. Yes, we look at the physical world and we think, dependent upon our level of consciousness, we think that, you know, everything that goes on in here stays in here. Well, it's not even going on in here. It's going on around here. And there are no lines. There are blurred lines, but ultimately we're all connected. It's like the theory about the fish, about, you know, how can you explain to a fish that it's in water? It doesn't know that it's in water. It can't see that it's in water. It can't feel that it's in water because it's just in water. Water is all that it knows. So consciousness is all that we know. Consciousness and thought, and thought creates. So you might have picked up on my little story from yesterday about the big picture, because ultimately everything that we think adds to the creation of our reality. It creates our reality. There are more things involved, you know, but our thoughts create our beliefs. Our thoughts create our beliefs, which form our habits, which create our character. So our character creates how we behave. Well, how we behave creates our character. And our character is ultimately who we are. Sorry, this is not helpful for me to be yawning. Well, maybe it is, actually. Hopefully it is. But basically, thought creates. Thought creates. Whether you realize it or you don't, whether you accept it or you don't, everything we do, think, and say affects the whole. And we are one, whether you're aware of the fact that we are one or not. It's still a measurable fact. With enough experimentation and enough awareness, you can see this fact, just like Christopher Columbus sitting on the shore and watching the ships as they slowly fade out in the distance, as they slowly shrink because they're going around the earth. When people think that we live on a flat world, and they think he's crazy because he comes and he's talking to them about how he believes that the world is round and he wants to prove it. And we still live in a flat world. So I don't. I live in one. And it's interesting. More and more people are becoming aware and awake, and that's wonderful and lovely. And I seem to be attracting those people in in droves. And yet so much of the world, even people who would really surprise you, who seem very spiritual and very aware, who might even say that they're spiritual people, they still come out with some stuff. And I bet that there's times when I still come out with some stuff too. Because that's what we all like. So, thought creates. So I want you to think about that for a moment. Think. I mean, really think. Just think about that for a moment. Thought creates. Thought has energy. Everything is energy, but thoughts have energy. So what are you thinking? And what are you creating today? What are you painting today? What are you creating today? What are you creating with your thoughts? And do you really want for those thoughts to come true? What are you thinking? And knowing that everything that you do, think, and say affects the whole. Which means everything you do, think, and say goes out there and comes back to you. That being the case, what are you thinking? And what do you want to create today? And don't worry, it takes a bit of time to change your thoughts. The more you understand it, the better you get at changing them and choosing them. It's called empowerment. So, how are you going to use your power? What are you thinking? And what do you want to create today? Have a wonderful day. Have a wonderful day and have a wonderful life.